Hello and welcome to the Confident Communication Satsang. You must probably have gleaned by now, if you've been doing stuff with me for a while, that I love silly names for things that sound like the Man from U.N.C.L.E., because that's the era I grew up in. And confident communication satsang has got such a silly sound to it, hasn't it? Because satsang means really confident communication anyway. The meaning, if you've not heard me say this 8 million times before, is in Sanskrit, we sit together in our naked truth. I'm getting from student, I'm getting lots of Russell. You know, my surname is Russell, so it's quite inevitable. I'm going to say before we go on any further, because in terms of communication, it was a problem originally because I was just using the microphone on the computer like normal people do, thinking if they can do it, why can't I? However, it didn't seem to work because you get lots of background noise because they're rubbish, those mics. So then I went to the other extreme, and I've been using my top-of-the-range vocal mic, recording mic we use in the studio, which is like, you can't get better than that. And I thought we'd cracked it, but in fact this mic is too sensitive. So it's picking up every rustle of my clothing and of my being, and there's a lot of rustle in me. And also the sound of young Mad Max dancing about hither and thither in the backdrop, shrieking as a 4-year-old is inclined to do. And the bird song apparently is a problem, which I find quite funny because I actually record bird song quite often to stick in tracks. I love bird song, I do great things with it, I've been doing it for decades. And so bear with me if it is rustlish and noisy with birds and boys. I will do everything in my, with my Jedi powers to keep it rustle-free, but I'm quite confident about communicating, paradoxically, but not that confident about communicating without rustle. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, somebody asked a question about going when you're talking. It was to do with the Great Presence training. And ever since I've answered that question, I've been going, I can't very well just go, and I find myself doing it. Well, confidence. Yeah. So let me just get back to that. We sit together in our naked truth. In other words, we can let down the mask that we're normally obliged to wear around each other. We don't even realise we're doing it, of course. This is something we developed from early on in childhood and compound in adolescence as we become socialised or hang out with friends and do stuff. You know, in the old days it used to be called the personality. People don't really talk about personality much anymore, but that's what it is. It's the mask. It's the device through which you express yourself to one another. And the joy of being in a meditative arena with each other is that we're able to let down that mask and just be present together. Now, what's really interesting about Taoist practice is that, well, there's many interesting things about it, but one of them is that the idea of learning to meditate is that you would sit or stand still at a certain point every day, probably twice, maybe more, and practice solely the internal concentration methods, and through that enter into a beautiful state of serenity and cohesion with yourself. But the point of it is not just to stand or sit for a certain point in the day meditating. The idea is that you gradually, by and by, find yourself in a meditative state all the time. So when you're talking to somebody, you're actually meditating and observing the person, i.e. you, transmitting a message. You observe the sound coming through, and from this state you can then adjust the quality and the tone, the sort of coloration, the temperature of the message. You become aware of the sound as comprising the majority of what is being transmitted. you're aware that the shape of the words are kind of just like the icing on the cake, or the shape of the cake. So people can go, look, that's a cake. But we know the taste of it, the experience of eating the substance of the cake, that is carried in the sound packet, mostly. And you become aware of this when you're in a meditating state. Now, my experience has taken, I don't know, 5 decades, because I think I was told when I was 11 to do that, meditate all the time. Didn't understand what it meant really, but I kind of did, but intellectually I didn't feel it. And gradually, by and by, as I kind of learned to drop the noise of Stephen that goes on in the front of me, progressively more, this meditative state has become more and more the natural default mode that I'm in. And I still have to remind myself of the little protocols, the steps to bring me back into it, because the world is exciting, the world is challenging, and external events and situations grab my attention, as I know they do yours. But more and more of the time now, I find myself sitting in this meditative state, and I'm able to enjoy each moment far more. There's less looking forwards to things, less looking backwards to things. Most of the time, fully present, loving, being alive. This doesn't mean that there's not excitement about what's coming or joyful anticipation, but there's no dwelling on what's coming in the mind other than to, attend to details that have to be attended to in advance. Likewise, when looking back, there's no regret, there's no guilt, there's no nostalgia, no yearning for something that's gone. There's merely appreciation for everything that occurred and has been learned, and the fact that it got me to this point. And all these things intellectually, they all make sense, I know, but the idea of the Taoist practice is that you embody these ideas. They're not just pleasant ideas that you think about. You actually do stuff inside yourself to engender the state. So it's very real. And then with that, you go from the mode of wanting things to the mode of having things. I say having things. The mode of wanting is that I want something external because I perceive there's some sort of gap in me that needs filling. So I'll strive for to achieve something, or to meet somebody, or get something, or do something. And no matter what I would achieve, or get, or do, I'd still be in the wanting state and wanting to do the next thing, and more and more and more. Now, this is perfectly fine, and it's healthy and crucial, I'm sure, to have an element of this, because it's a drive. It's obviously a drive that we can benefit by. But rather than that be the overriding mode, more and more of the time by this practice of the meditation, I find myself in the having mode. So rather than thinking there's a feeling that there's a gap in me, I don't feel that. It feels a sense of completion in every moment, and a sense of, I have this, whatever it is right now, I have this, and that fulfills me. And then if there's more needed, which of course there will always be things needed, new resources and what have you, I just tell the big one, the Tao, the presence, okay, like looks like I need this, this and this, make it happen. I'm game, I'll go along with it. And things then fall into place with what I describe as supreme elegance, which isn't a glittery, bright, brash effect. It's a very subtle, discreet thing that things just fall into place. Communication specifically with others, and especially when it's difficult, seems to resolve far more quickly and quietly, and with less emotive or emotional noise to it, with everybody walking away happy with it all, with very little needing to be said. But it's a very, very interesting process. I just finished a week retreat in Italy, which is why I might sound a bit slammed to you, because I do actually feel as if I have been slammed into by high-speed mountain range. That's what it feels like, and in a lovely way. And I'm delighted to be feeling so, because it was worth it for what occurred, which essentially was 21, 22 people, I don't know, for a week, and the facilitating the transition from one state to by a quantum jump to the next state for everybody, and the state being a quantum increase of self-esteem, self-worth, and a sense of self-entitlement, and confidence, essentially, to not only do what has to be done to make the changes to the next stage of the journey, but to love being where they are right now, and watching that many people, and helping that many people come through to the next stage, which is not easy for anyone. We all have to face our resistance and so on. It was so beautiful. It was, I don't know, there really isn't a word to describe the joy of the privilege of being party to that. But there's also, not but and, there's also the sense that I'm taking responsibility for the space, for want of a better word, that holds us all together, and everyone's well-being within that, and tuning into, so I'm connected to everyone at the soul level. I mean, this is only a microcosmic version of what we're doing here, or what I'm doing always, or what we're all doing always, if we're aware of it. And the going through that much suffering out to that much release of suffering in one week, quite extreme. I'm not sure I'm telling you that, but yes, I'm explaining my state to you. And what was the interesting part of it was that not once do I recall actually mentioning the words self-esteem, self-worth, self-confidence, self-entitlement. Possibly, I don't remember, but didn't make a thing out of it. It wasn't a headline. Might have been mentioned in passing, even though that was the complete intention, stated in slightly different words at the beginning of the week. But everybody did experience that increase for themselves. And it's because it doesn't have to be stated. You don't have to talk about raising your self-esteem, actually. Of course, be aware of it. When you learn to occupy your body properly, so that you are aware viscerally that you are Tao, God, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, expressing itself as you in your shape. When you become aware of that, physically, you can feel yourself embodying it. And we're going to do that in a minute. We're going to run through the process. You just know that you are loved. That's what esteem is. You know that you are loved, and you know that you are loving. And that's self-esteem. There isn't an issue about it. There's no question. In terms of your worth, you of course you are worth it because you're here. That's the proof of it. The presence expresses itself through you. And here you are. It's still expressing itself through you. Therefore, you are worth it. You're here. That's it. That shows your worth. We have been trained, misguidedly, I believe, to gauge our worth in comparison to other people, generally our age, because it starts at school and it continues throughout our lives. Hence, by the time I'm 50, I should have really achieved all of it. By the time I'm 60, and so on. And this is, again, it's part of that competitive drive I was talking about earlier, the I want. And so it has its place. That this comparison thing is part of the herd bonding mechanism. It does serve as some sort of driver. And therefore it has its uses, not to be vanquished or got rid of, but to be deployed rather than for it to drive you or control you. Because when you relinquish that mindset and instead surrender to the physical sense of being down in human form, you know that there is worth. You have worth. You have the function of being here in your form, channeling Tao for everyone and everything. For Tao, for it to feel itself as you. And self-entitlement, the sense of being entitled to all that there is, again, it's no issue, because when you're in the having mode, when you sit back and sit down and you feel yourself as that, the sense that you have your reality, you have this gift of life, that's it. You're obviously entitled, or you wouldn't have it. It really is that simple. So you don't have to then go through like reams of affirmations and exercises and processes necessarily to convince yourself that you're worth it. That stuff actually does help. It has its place. I've done a lot of it myself to be able to attest to that. Like, we need reminding consciously, often. And I think, in a way, that's the main advantage of that. It reminds us. But until we are sitting right inside, until we can feel ourselves as Tao, it still remains surface and haphazard and doesn't necessarily have the most efficient, effective impact on the subconscious, which is what is important. But again, it's like treating ourselves as fragmented beings, so superficial in a way. So what we're going to do now is come into the very depths of our being and clear the communication channels energetically. Why do we do this? Look, communication is an act of faith. It's an act of holding the faith with the Tao. That's what confidence means. Confidere is to hold the trust with whatever it is. And if we're not going to say what it is, we might as well assume that what we're holding the trust with is the Tao, it's ourselves, is the adventure. So in the benign nature of existence. And every time we communicate from the soul, because that's what's important, words have been used to obfuscate the truth more, it seems, than they have to express the truth. Words in themselves. But the sound of the heart, the soul expressing itself, or really more specifically, the soul expressing itself through the heart energy. That is what we all want, and that is an act of faith when we do it. We're communicating the unique gift that each of us bears to all our fellows, or to a fellow, and we're sharing Tao as it expresses itself through each of us with everyone else. And it seems that that's what the Tao requires of us. I'm seeing red noise on the lots of rustling, really bad. Look, it seems to me either going to have rustling and me talking, or neither. So we just go with that. It's the rustling and me, baby. It's all we can do. I went yesterday to sample a parrot, as it goes, an African grey. My friend David, the Holy Man, also is the guy who runs the RSPCA in Suffolk, which is at the animal sanctuary. And I don't know why the two parrots are in there, but one of them has kind of Tourette's and has a foul mouth, apparently, and thought it would be quite interesting to get some of that swearing on a track. But as it happens, she didn't swear, which I was quite happy about, but remarkably gave me this repertoire of sounds, and every fifth one, so one would be a and another one would be a mobile phone impersonation, the phone ringing, so convincingly that I went into sort of irritated producer mode. So he was going to turn around and say, will someone turn that phone off? I'm recording it. And actually realised that it was the parrot. Then other amazing, and then which is amazing for a track. And then, you want me to talk words? What's happening? Nothing much. And that kind of thing, like a run of that sort of chat. And what was required, because she wasn't saying anything, it took me a while. I stood there and I was talking to the parrot, who knew I was there, obviously, and finding the right feel to the sound I made to inspire her to start talking. And I just found myself tuning in through my heart to her. Firstly, saying, my commiserations for finding yourself in prison here. It's not that you've done anything wrong, it's just because they're looking after you before you go to the, wherever it is they go, those parrots after. But you know, I'm here as your brother, and I'm, if it's all right with you, I will talk to your agent about it after, but I'd really like to get some parrot sound. It would be wild to have that on a track, if you're up for it. I found eventually myself going, give us a word. And then she'd go, what? And I go, give us a word. And then she'd go, what? And I go, give us a word. And then she'd go, what? And I go, give us a word. And then she'd go, you want a word? Blah, blah. And this went in a sequence, like all the time. I was going on for about 20 minutes recording it. Now that was fascinating, because it was, she recognised the word as being the signal to start doing her little act. Somehow that triggered it, but it was the timbre and the rhythm of my own bit in it that got her going. She felt me at a heart and soul level. So that is what we are about to put into action amidst all the awful rustling, the bear head rustling. We're going to do a magic meditation now to clear the channels and get your sound packets coming out perfectly formed, so that the words that you utter really are not that important, but people will feel the essence of your soul every time you communicate, and therefore you will love communicating more and more, and therefore contribute more and more without any effort, enjoying yourself as you do so more and more. That's my intention for you. Underlying intention is to love you and to help you feel that you are loved fully, that by your Tao, me talking on behalf of it, if I may be so bold at this point. And so that you come away from here and for the rest of the week you feel yourself gently, subtly buoyed up from within your heart. And that helps you retain perspective so that you don't trip over at every little obstacle, every irritant, that you don't forget for a moment that the privilege and the joy is that you're here, and that all the stuff out there, the wanting things, and never's going to fill any hole, because there isn't a hole, that's an illusion. And now to dispel the illusion of the hole, as in the gap, and come into the whole, as in the all. Give yourself this moment, allowing whatever rustling you're hearing to augment the relaxation process, to settle in your seat. Let your muscles and sinews soften like beautiful silk that's just been stroked out of a crease into a state of supreme smoothness. And honor the softness in all your muscles from your head to the soles of your feet by matching the softness with your breathing, so that your breathing process becomes so smooth and silent and silken. A micro-sized golden dragon could ride upon it without feeling any turbulence, and you could ride upon its back. Decrumple yourself by picturing a hook attached to the crown of your head, a string attached to the hook, and the hook on a pulley high above you. And somebody's winching the pulley and causing the crown of your head to come out of your body, like a tortoise head comes out of the shell, so that your spine is now elongated. Drop your shoulders and allow your shoulder girdle, your upper chest, to broaden and soften, broaden and soften. Allow your breastbone to float upwards a tad and forwards a little bit, so diagonally upwards, making your chest rise up without arching your back, to give you the feeling of being the queen or the king of no matter what. And all the weight of your head and chest, your shoulders, the upper body, can now sink down into the lower part of the body, so that your pelvis and your legs feel pleasantly solid and strong, and connecting with the power issuing forth from the core of the earth, through the crust of the earth, and up through the soles of your feet, while the upper part of your body is now free and light and airy. And breathing slowly, you become aware that you have an option of either remaining mostly up in the front of your body and the front of your brain, which is like where we tend to spend most of the time, to get a closer handle on what we're perceiving as the world occurring in front of us. You have the option of remaining there amidst the familiar noise of the world and the noise of your emotional conflicts appertaining to the world, and amidst the noise of the incessant debate occurring in the front of your brain about what you're feeling in relation to the world. Staying in there, in that habitual, what we could call non-meditation state, or allowing yourself to drift purposefully backwards inside your body and skull, to occupy mostly the rear of you instead. When you do this, as you do this, you notice that the stillness and silence and strength, which are the qualities of the back, are now exactly what you're feeling. Just a glimmer of it, the sense of silence and stillness and strength. The front part of you is now perceived as the arena of drama, the theatre of the story of you, and it's now without pictures or intellectual values, no descriptions. All there is in the belly, rather than all that tight resistance to whatever's going on, is just the residue of a bit of energy that's been trapped and is now starting to move and free up. The heart area, which hitherto might have been the location of a closing down, a sense of guarding against danger, is now free to soften and open. And the noise of the forebrain, instead of it being lots of thoughts that you feel obliged to take note of, is merely just the echoes of noises, just with nothing defined. So you sit back, leaning against the rear wall of the skull inside there, as if you're in a cave, on a pile of beautiful cushions, your back leaning into the rear wall of the skull, perfectly content, just being here, observing. Down below, your physical presence is delighted to just lean back into your back, because it's warm and it's still and it's not perturbed. You're now in command of your front. You govern what occurs in the front, and you can now govern the front to, or command the front to relax and soften. If you want a bit of help coming into your back more, one device now is to picture that you're breathing in through all the pores of your skin, in your face, your throat, and your torso simultaneously, as if drawing in a wall of air all the way from your front into your back, and allow the feeling of the air coming into the back, as it were, to help you feel situated in your back. As you breathe out from the back, through the front, through all the pores of the skin, and that forward thrust of the air being expelled thrust you back in your seat even more, just like taking off in a plane. So you breathe in, and that draws you into your back. You breathe out from the back, and that pushes you further back. And you only need to do it a couple of times before you get the sense of, yeah, this is my back. I know this. There's nothing weird about this. And you're able to relax into it and trust it. Trusting your back, being in there, you also become aware that the presence that until now you would have thought of as the witness bearer, the background presence that observes you going through whatever you go through in your life without judgment, impartially, just being, the being of you. That's what is in your back. That's where it's found. That's where it's watched from. And it's obvious, isn't it? The witness bearer wouldn't be able to see everything going on if it wasn't in the back. It's like the mafia don sitting in the back of the restaurant with his back to the wall to have full command of the space. Or like the king or the queen sitting right back into the throne in the palace, in the throne room at the rear of the palace. Or Captain Kirk sitting on the flight deck of the Starship Enterprise, back, so he can see what's going on everywhere. Now, in the back, you're in touch now, you are one with your true nature. The true nature is the expression in you this lifetime of the quality, the essence of your soul. Being here in the back of you, you are one with your soul. And what you communicate from here to your fellows has true value and will find resonance in your fellows and be reciprocated with true value. And with this energetic imprint, the details of what you're communicating about, the results that you wish to attain through your communications, whether in business or personal life, so on, will be far more, they'll come far more easily and elegantly for you without effort or strain. And not just for you, but for whomever you're communicating with, because it's a two-way thing, of course. And all we have to do now is clear the imprint, or kind of imprint the imprint. Now, the portal through which the communicational energy is transmitted is the heart center. That is in the middle of your chest. The throat center governs the flow and quality of communication, communicational energy, both with yourself in an upward direction, energetically, its influence on the forebrain, the conscious mind, and downwards into the heart in its effect on the energy you're transmitting through the heart. But the communication, the sound packets that come out of you carrying your message have so the throat energy, or the energy of the throat area, puts the lid on the sound wave. The bottom of the sound wave is provided by the energy that you're generating in your lower abdominal area. which is your primal generative energy, the sexual, creative will, the animal power, strength, vitality. That's your base energy, which sits in the lower abdominal and pelvic area, provides the bottom to the sound wave, and the throat, the energy from your throat, provides the top of the sound wave. But the body of the sound wave, the substance of it, is provided for by the heart. And with the throat energy strong, the lower abdominal energy strong, so that the shape of the wave is clear. What goes in between those, that comes out your heart energy, will have a lot more impact. So from your back now, sitting in the back, you can visualize your lower abdominal area as a contained furnace, a boiler, cauldron, with flames underneath it. And in the cauldron, a beautiful gold, see it as a gold ancient Chinese thing, an elixir, a magical elixir, some sort of fluid. And this fluid is being boiled to the perfect temperature. And you could even put your hand in and it wouldn't get burnt, but it would be perfectly hot, like the perfect hot bath. And this elixir has a color. Could be described as golden flame, warm, very amber, beautiful, rich, warming. And in the back of you now, you're observing down there, not trying to believe the visualization, not wasting energy on that, just seeing it, like seeing a purple ostrich with a top hat on, dancing the can-can. You can see the cauldron and feel the heat in your belly. And this heat goes out from your belly button, let's say, like a force that goes out. For now, straight ahead of you. It's easiest to focus on. In fact, it's going all around. It's spherical, all the movement of energy. But for now, just see the bit that goes out in front of you. And the throat, visualize from the back of you here, the throat in the front, visualize it as a diaphanous veil that's blowing in a gentle breeze and being illuminated with a rather bright violet light, which is cleansing the throat area of all blockages, of all repressed communication that got lodged in there energetically over the years, of all things that's stuck in your throat. It's clearing it, just washing it all away. It's like a violet but with blue, flashlight blue, electric blue in it, and it's cleansing the whole throat area and energizing it remarkably. And as the throat area becomes energized, there's a sense of your primal power, some of which you'd left behind you, collecting here. It's the power that gives you the faith to communicate, and the sense of, I can say what I need to say. I'm here to do that, and my fellows require me to do that, whether they realize it or not. That's the energy there of the throat. And see that going out in a stream in front of you as well, into infinity. And then between those two, inside your chest, first of all, see the two halves of your breastbone slide apart from each other like a pair of sliding doors to open up and reveal the heart center, which you can see as a cluster, a treasure trove of precious jewels in all the red and pink colors to symbolize the essence of love, beauty, courage, nobility, all the qualities of the heart. Pink sapphire is a stone I saw the other day. It's a great example of it. And from behind that, you are now, visualize that you are now transmitting a blast of that light, the pink fuchsia coloured light, outwards from the heart centre in front of you, and that's moving out from you in like a large stream, kind of cylindrical stream in front of you. Now the top of the stream is bounded by the violet light coming from the throat, and the bottom of the stream of heart energy is bounded by the amber light coming from the dantian, the lower belly area. So you can see you have this 3-layer energy stream. What do you call it? A floor underneath it, made of amber. The ceiling above it, made of violet. And then this fantastic profusion of fuchsia, crimson, rose, gold coloured light coming in the middle of those two. It's like a sandwich. But then it's cylindrical. So rather than it being layer upon layer upon layer, it's actually cylindrical, like looking at a cross-section of a tree trunk. And then if you can stretch your mind to this, not only is it moving out in front of you, this shape, so to speak, is moving out in all directions from your centre, above, below, to the sides, in front, behind. It's cylindrical, spherical, rather. Spherical. So you're now sitting in the midst of a giant sphere, and from you is being emitted this 3-tone sound packet made of bottomed by the amber, the power, the warmth, the generative force, the will, topped by the clarity of your throat energy, the clarity of the essence of your message, which is the message being to convey the beauty in your soul, and the substance of it, the body of it, being comprised of rich fuchsia, rose gold, crimson light that is the light of love. And it's moving ubiquitously all around you in that formation somehow, if you can get your mind around that or the nearest thing to it. So that you are now in the midst of a massive communicational wave, a multidimensional wave of energy that is carrying the true essence of your soul. And you're sitting in your back, so there's no sensationalism about it. There's no, wow, there's nothing like that. It's very quiet, very, very subtle, very still. It just is. It's not even the sense that you're activating something new. It's just that you're reminding yourself that at a deep level, this is what you're doing. This is what you do. This is your function. And in this outpouring, this radiance from your soul to the soul of everyone present here in our circle and beyond to everyone present on the planet right now, whether they would meet with approval or disapproval is irrelevant. It's just that they are family. It's the family. And collectively, we are together doing this now. You're opening to a two-way flow that is drawing to you the bounce back from everyone that's vibrating on the same frequency as you right now, or higher. So that the gift that you're transmitting generously to everyone is eliciting a bounce back from everyone, therefore a hugely exponentially multiplied bounce back of the beauty in their souls. Even the people who are acting out unbeautifully So this is the magic here. You've now set up a communicational sphere, and the words that you speak from now on will have their own elegance. There will be much less effort in figuring out what to say. There'll be much less energy wasted punishing yourself if you feel that you communicated brilliantly, because from the back of you, transmitting and receiving at a soul level like this, you know that it's not about being praised. It's merely about giving and then receiving. And even the receiving you don't have to worry about. You just have to focus on transmitting the love, and the rest happens all on its own. And so throughout the week coming, with far less effort, you'll be able to communicate whatever you have to communicate with whomever, and subsequently as well, with far less energy wastage, far more economy of energy, and far more joyfulness in the act of communicating. And that's my intention for you. I would never wish to impose ideas on you, but if that resonates for you, agree to it in your own words. You know, that you can make your own intention up right now. But by having even just had a glimpse of this sphere of communicational energy, I just triggered, i.e. you just triggered, to connect me at a soul level with all sentient beings, even parrots as well. The actual content of communication, no matter what area of life it's about, will be less important in a sense. The effects of all my communications will be startlingly wonderful in an unprecedented way. That sort of intention. Just make it, agree to an intention like that. And also acknowledge that this little operation that we've just done collectively is an intervention into the collective consciousness, a benign one. We've just done like an acupuncture treatment of the collective consciousness, instilling, with a golden needle, instilling love and the beauty from our souls. And this will have an effect on everybody in time. So be aware of that, acknowledge it, agree to it, accept it, and it will be so. And now comes the time for you to wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes, wiggle your ears and wiggle your nose, flutter your eyelids, and heaven knows this is the time to come back into the room. And now it's question and answers section of the game, and Sue Ducrew will tell you exactly what to do. She won't rustle.
I'm trying not to rustle and trying not to be deaf as well. Okay, a very warm welcome to you if you are new. I know we've got quite a few new people on today. Malkit says, hi Stephen, what a beautiful satsang and meditation, and thank you for facilitating this.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
And Maz says, awesome satsang, thank you stalwart Stephen.
Thank you, Maz, as you say.
Okay, so first question is from Darsh, who's asking how to communicate and ensure you are heard in its truest form and understood and not worrying about the impact of the message.
Hey, Darsh, you slam him up against the wall, one hand on the throat, say can't move, and then you listen to me. Big boy. I don't know. Like we just said, I think you have to be clear in your mind exactly what you want to say, of course. A clear, like no confusion about the issue. And you have to have your message as simple as it can possibly be, so that if you have to, you repeat it again and again and again until the other person hears you. And it has to be really simple and free of sub-bits, in other words, just the straightforward message of what you need to say. You sit in your back, you open your heart, you see the other in front of you. You talk to the presence in their back, and you do it with love, and you do it with the firm intention that the outcome of the conversation will be of absolute satisfaction to both parties. You don't know how that's going to happen. You don't have to think about that. And then you talk from your heart as clearly and simply as you can, and don't get drawn off your point. Stay repeating the same thing if you have to. And then you ask the other, have you heard me? I'm talking to you from my heart and soul. And it has to be said from your heart and soul. And then the other will say, yeah, I hear you, I think. And that's how the conversation will progress. I don't know, because I don't really know what you're referring to, but I do hope that is of some help to you. It was lovely having you on the week in Italy, by the way.
Barbara says, my aim is to communicate through my visual artwork, and I hope these sessions will help me to do that with clarity.
Barbara, bless you, that's a lovely idea. It does. When the communicational energy is set free like we've just done, it affects absolutely all forms of communication, because the energy that you paint with, or whatever medium you're using, that's the energy behind that is the energy of, like, I'm connecting with you, my brothers and sisters. I'm connecting with you. That's the initiatory thrust, and it doesn't matter whether it's through words, music, painting, film, whatever. That's what will inform the output.
Dragana says, as an empath, how do I allow myself to stand up for my inner truth without guilt, doing things out of obligation versus joy?
Well, I think Dragana, first of all, to not conflate having empathy with being self-sacrificial, so that empathize and feel the other's experience, as it were. This is a talent, a skill rather, that's crucial for all of us to develop. And yet be aware that what the other has is theirs, and what you have is yours. And when they're expressing themselves, it doesn't imply that you're required to receive their burden. They're merely explaining their burden. And if you're awake to that, it stops you taking their burden on unconsciously. So in other words, yes, be empathic, of course. That's the most beautiful of human qualities. I desist from labeling yourself as an empath, because I know where that comes from, obviously, but I think it's slightly limiting. It's like saying I'm a nice guy. It's all right to say that, but it's limiting. You know, I have niceness in me. I can be all sorts of things, as we all can. You know, you're empathic, and you're also lots of other things. So to call yourself an empath might be a little bit limiting to describe yourself thus as a magnificent, limitless being that you are. But the quality of empathy is beautiful, and to be honoured and cherished and nurtured, but not to be conflated with martyrdom, so that the other is responsible for their burden and what they do with it. You're responsible for holding the space for them, bearing witness, and suggesting, when asked, how they might relieve themselves of their burden. And I think when that clarity is there in you, in your transactions with others, you'll be far more awake to unconscious energy exchanges, and therefore be able to divert them if required. I hope that's helpful to you.
Janet is asking, if a person has a stroke and finds it difficult to recall a word, is it best to simply wait or to help out?
Is it better to what?
To wait for them to recall that word, or to help out?
I think you do what you felt like at the time. It's, I mean, it's having a stroke or suffering from dementia, or whatever it is. I don't think there are any rules for it, other than that you sit with the other. And I think that people would prefer to you to be yourself. And so if yourself was to come in with the word to help them, I think I'd be inclined to, generally am inclined to, in those circumstances. But then again, it depends on how impatient I am. If I'm willing just to sit there, because it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, when I'm sitting with people who are uh, suffering from dementia or stroke and can't get words out, it's not that important what we're talking about. It's more important I'm just sitting with them. That's the important bit. I mean, who cares what the conversation is all about, really, most of the time, unless it's crucial. It's just we're being with each other. And if I'm loving them and giving them, holding the space, it doesn't seem to matter, really. And if I do jump in with a word, it's fine. I don't think they want to be patronised, though, and treated as if they're sort of deficient somehow. I think, therefore, I think if I couldn't come up with a word, I want you to come in with it. It would be great. In fact, if I could get someone to do it all for me, that would be even better. I could just lie in bed and sleep today. That would be wonderful. Get someone else to do all the words. Janet, come and do my words for me.
We've got quite a few words from Sharon here, actually. She would like to know how to deal with the following troubles. Unemployment, even though I do great interviews and have 17 years experience. Addiction, it's called vodka. Being lonely. I thought someone really liked me and I asked them out. Never did that before. And they blanked me. He was the one flirting with me. I live in a lovely place, have good friends, money in the bank, but I feel stuck. I need a new job and to get clean, and I'm still heartbroken after a love left me after 3 years. I keep thinking, why does it seem that everyone else is okay? And when does life stop being so hard? I'm better off in all ways than many folks, but I'm not happy. Sometimes I just feel like taking what I have and opening a tiki bar in Puerto Rico, though that would not be best for my sobriety. Apologies for depressing you.
You haven't, Sharon. That didn't depress me. I like that story. I kind of laughing because I was thinking, what, you want me to sort of that out now, do you? I would look, firstly, before I forget to say it, I think if you ask Sue for the link for the email coaching, I think maybe we could do that. We could work on that. I can help you with all of that. But the thing that, because there's a lot of big things there, aren't there? I mean, you're talking about how to approach the vodka situation, that contract, and what to do with it. How to let go of the residual clinging to the pain of the relationship that went wrong, or whatever, came to an end, what to do with that, what to do to deploy your talents best to earn money in a way that you enjoy. There is evidently the part of you that does want to have a Robinson Crusoe kind of adventure, how to accommodate that. And I can't remember all the rest of it. There's big stuff, though, that we could work on if you want to. But what occurs to me, that the crux of it all, is the thing that everybody thinks, why does everybody else seem to be doing fine? I'm not. I'm privileged to have been given the stories, like people tell me the stories, because I ask, that's what I do, and I'm curious anyway. And I was saying, I mean, I've done well over 1 million one-to-one sessions in my life, and in that time, I've had my naivety. I still succumb. I still assume, like you do, oh, well, they're doing fine. They look fine. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with them. And really, I have not yet met a person, except for Ojas in India, one guy, in my whole life, actually, and even him I'm not totally sure about, who isn't suffering. And everybody has got suffering going on. You would be amazed at some of the suffering that's going on behind what look like very happy faces. Truly, I am, constantly. And it's all relative as well. And I just feel that you must acknowledge that you're not alone in that. That in itself will be a big help. Everybody is suffering, and most of it is self-imposed. It's mimicking the bullying that was done to us as children by parents or teachers or siblings or whoever. And when I'm talking about bullying, I'm not talking about the obvious type necessarily, but just, I've stopped being stupid, or giving you a look like you're an idiot when actually you just come in and bared your soul doing a little ballet dance or whatever it was, and then they give you a look to dismiss you and makes you feel like you want the ground to swallow you up. But even that kind of bullying, we then as children mimic that. We punish ourselves with it. And anyhow, it's a long process that I could help you with if you want to. I'll see you to do the doodahs if you want. But start by acknowledging that you're not alone in your suffering. And if you come into your back, there is no suffering. There is just presence. and you observe the front of you, because that's where all that suffering goes on. All the conflicts about the vodka and about this and about that, and the letting go of the relationship you were in and wanting to get a job and all of that stuff. All the noise of that goes on in the front. So you sit in your back and you ask yourself, what do I want? I would presume that you would want to be able to drink vodka without it being addictive, or not drink it at all. Have someone around that you really get on well with and having fun with. Be doing work that you're enjoying and is earning you lots of money, and so on and so on. So you see yourself as that person, and you go, that is my intention. Meantime, I don't want anything because I have this. You have what you have. I love what I have. I don't have to compare myself to others who I think don't have suffering. Everyone has suffering. So I'm in the swim of doing fine. There is suffering, and yeah, but that is just an opinion, just a description. And my intention is for this that I have to expand to include a job that I love and and all the rest of it. In other words, you're not trying to change from where it is to something else. You just say, look, I have this, I have a body, I have a life, I've got a house, I've got this, got that. And what I want to do with this is to expand it into this. Let it be, relax into your back, carry on as you were. And you remind yourself of that every day for a minute or second or so, and things will start shifting for you. At the vodka and all the rest, as I say, we'd have to go into in depth, but things will start shifting for you. And they will anyway from this moment, because we've just done magic. Okay, next one.
It's 3 minutes past the hour, and we've got about 3 comments and 2 questions. Do you want to rattle through those?
Yes.
Okay, so a couple of comments. Julie says, we are mega blessed. Thank you for your wonderful energy.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Nice. You too, you too. Thank you, everybody, for all your wonderful energy.
And James says, hi Stephen, blessings. This was a great insight and honed in previous teachings. It sounds like one needs to free up the frontal thinking and allow the presence to come through and not be concerned with what others think about what you are expressing.
Jane, yes, not to be concerned. Well, we're concerned. I think it's okay to be concerned, but the concern is focused on being authentic and giving love rather than doing a good show. I think that's what it is. So the concern becomes for the other's well-being in your presence when you're communicating, and for them to be nurtured by what you're saying, whatever it is, rather than being concerned for how they're going to judge us. I think that would be the key. Yeah.
Joe would like to know how not to react to people who are trying to elicit a negative response from me.
Joe, I know what you mean. And I have to preface this by saying I don't always manage that myself. There have been moments, even recently, where I have reacted instantaneously. And sometimes that's actually what's required. However, what I've noticed is that by remaining back more of the time, I get more habituated to that state, and the chances of reacting in a way that's not going to necessarily be to everyone's benefit, excuse me, seem to diminish naturally. So I would say that that is the key, to stay back, to understand that the other is suffering, and that let them say their piece as well, I think. This is the other bit I've learned. If you let the other express themselves and you are willing to sit silently while they do so and not interrupt at all, just absorb it, or not absorb it, actually just let it come out. Loving them all the while, even if you don't like them or are angry with them, but loving them nonetheless, so bathing them in your heart energy. When they've finished, you'll know what to say, and you'll say it much more clearly than if jumping into the front, being pulled into the front. But if you do get pulled into the front and you do react, so what anyway? You know, it's all part of life's theatre. Don't punish yourself for it. Sometimes that's what's needed. Someone needs to be told, just go away, you know, whatever it is. Sometimes that needs to be done. You know, who are we to say? But it is nicer if we can sit back and field it sensibly and then return kindly. It takes less time and energy eventually anyway. Yes.
And this last one is from David, who says, my magic does not seem to be working in terms of creating what I want and need. How can I move forward in a new light?
Hey, David, I do empathise with that as well. And I think, I don't know what, again, there's no quick answers to this at all. It's a big question. But I think we have to start with assuming that actually, even though it doesn't look like it, the magic, so to speak, is working. And we're using magic here in a fun sense, because actually we're talking about intention, the power of intention. When the intention is really clear and what's being intended is clear and obviously somehow the right shape, it does come. But there is a creative process, and it's quite possible that right now what you're picturing that you need isn't quite it. That it needs refining, it needs a little bit of changing and transformation a bit, and it might take a bit of time. That's the creative process. We can't always get that sort of perfect result straight away. In fact, very rarely. So perhaps rather than see it short term, see it long term, and say to yourself that this is the process working. I'm in a phase of experimentation here, so it will necessarily not be rapid result time. This is me feeling my way into creating, sculpting the picture better, and give yourself time for that. If you come from that point of view, I think you'll find you'll get to the next bit faster. It is probable that you're being impatient, and that's blocking you from sitting back and flowing with the adventure. And again, by being in the back, you come out of that wanting mode into the having mode. So you would look at what you have now, all the resources you have. You have life, the greatest gift of all. You have the body, you have your connections, you have your skills, and so on. And then you can say, and I now want to expand this into something that will include whatever it is that's going to facilitate my desire to do whatever it was I wanted to do. Again, like I said, if you want to do a proper session thing on this, ask Sue for the link to connect with me like that. And but I would trust that that would give you enough of a hint as to reposition you somewhat. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with my, ironically, being confident communication. I can hardly get a phrase out in a straight line today. But thank you for bearing with me. I've loved every minute of this myself. I have been loving you quite intensively all the way through this from my heart. And I trust that the echo of that will be with you tonight as you sleep and so on. And when you wake up tomorrow, that you'll be filled with a new zest for everything and a new lightness of being, positivity for the week ahead. Thank you so much for being here. Come next week. I think this is going to be a special sequence, this one. And bless you. If you come into the Chigungo thing shortly, I'll see you there. See you a bit.